Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're learning Bava Batra daf Kuf Nun. We're going to start on Kuf Nun Amud Alf, about 12 lines from the top by the two dots. Pshita. The following case is pretty straightforward. Omar, if a person says, quote, Metaltal planya, that I'm giving metaltalin to a particular individual. So you say, Kol mani tashmishte kani. So anything in which is of utility, he's able to acquire this. That is the din. He acquires everything. Lavar, with the exclusion of mechiti v'sari, wheat and barley. Says Rashba, b'hu din labar behemoisav. So too when he says other, excluding my animals, kinir beinai. If you instead as word koil, all metaltalai laplanya. So in fact he added coal, then includes a fil chiti v'sari, even wheat and barley, fil rechaim elyoina, even the upper millstone, kaina lavar mirichaim hatachtaina, excluding the bottom one. Says the Rashbam, the top one shrigen with lamisham kedei l'sakna. Sometimes it's actually removed in order to fix it. The bottom one, if it ever needs to be fixed, it's not taken off, it just remains there. So therefore it's more permanent in nature. Fine. So Iboyel, the Gemara asks, if he says kol de metaltal, anything that could ever be moved, I feel rechaim hatachnev in the bottom is kaina. We have this question numerous other times in Shas. What is the status of an eved? Does an eved have the halachic status of land or metaltal? Says the Rashbam, Nihi, granted, we know for sure that an eved is like land when it comes to a shvua, that in nishmoin al shibud karkoi, so to an eved, they kin b'kesed shabbat chazaka. We also know that just like you can acquire land in these manners, so too an eved. The whole mili deraisa din kamekarkoyesh lehem. So when it comes to din deraisa, we know that eved is like a land. When it comes to the way that people speak, mikro hu metaltli. Is it possible also an eved is like land, is like metaltlin? The yesh mechal matnas metaltli. It falls in the category of a gift of metaltlin. She metaltli hu olo. So even though typically an eved for deraisa matters is considered like land, however, using lashmani adam, maybe it's like metaltlin. So Amalei Rav Acha Bered Rav Avil Rav Ashi Tashma. We can derive it based on the sugya that we have in which we had previously on Daf Samaches. Hamoicher Esair. A person sells a city. So included in that is machar batim shichin umaros. So included in the sale of a city are the houses, the cisterns, the caves, the merchatzos, the bathhouses, ubeis abadim, the olive presses, ubeis ashlachim, the irrigation, of uloyas metaltalon. But it does not include metaltalon. Metaltalon is not part of I'm selling my city. If he added he b'chol masha b'tzaycha, this as well as whatever's in it, then afilu hayuba behema, even if there was an animal, avadim or slaves, harikuan mechurin, it's all sold. Now, if you want to tell me that an eved really is like metaltalin, misham hachi lumizdavin bereisha. That's the reason why I wasn't included on the reisha of that statement. If you want to tell me it's like land, amay lumizdavin, why not? So therefore, why do we say in the ratio, when we say it includes the land, the houses, so this is all karka, like a bathhouse, these are all things, or a cave, these are all karka. So an eved is like karka, so you should have included there. So it must be that an eved is like metaltalin. Velamai, kemetaltalin dami. So you want to tell me something in the seifa, so in the seifa, my afilu, why does it say even this, right? So it almost sounds unlike it being like metaltalin. Why does it say the word afilu? What is it coming to add? Shana metaltalin denayid min metaltalin lo nayid. Because there's a difference between movable metaltalin and non-movable metaltalin. So really it could be the metaltalin, but the chiddush could be because an eved is movable, and therefore because it's 90, so it becomes more problematic. Maybe it's not included as your city. If you'll tame it's the same thing. Even though I say it's like an eved's like land, but the difference between movable property and non-movable property. Says Rashbam, Hainu deloin is dabel liberation loika chashiv ela mikarkoi of avada metaltalin lo. Nimchor, it's not included in the sale. Alma avik metaltali dami. Okay. So again, maybe there's a distinction, therefore there's no raya either way. Okay. Armule Ravino Ravashi Tashma. Okay, I'll try to prove to you instead from another Gemara that we had on Kuf Mem Tes. Just last off. HaKoysev la'avda kol nechasav yatsa ben nechayrin. And let's say you gave everything to your Eved, so he goes free because included in that is the Eved himself. But shir karka kosha hu lo yotze ben chayrin. However, if you say, I'm keeping something for myself, I'm giving everything to you, Eved, but there's some part of land I'm keeping, so it doesn't go free. Why not? It must be because then Eved is like karka, and therefore it's like you're holding back the Eved, maybe. Rav Shimon Arminol, oyum hu ben chayrin, he actually will go free because there's no way he's included as land. If you use that language of Echem Boishmehen, so there the Eved could be included. The Yomarav Dimi Bar Yosef Amar Rebbe Lazar Asu Metaltalin Shir Eitzel Eved Velo Asu Metaltalin Shir Eitzel Ksuba. So we ended up saying that when it comes to metaltalin, that's considered to be left over when it comes to an Eved. In other words, he says, I'm holding on to some metaltalin, so that metaltalin could be referring to the Eved. So we see on some level an Eved could be like metaltalin. V'los metaltalin shir eitzel ksuba. However, now when it comes to ksuba, in other words, she will lose her ksuba if he writes that she gets part of. It says she's going to get a part of metaltalin with the kids, so she will not lose the ksuba, because the ksuba is linked to land. It's not linked to metaltalin. So if he would say that you're getting some karka, so then she loses the ksuba. However, if he says you're getting metaltalin, so then she's not going to lose the ksuba because metaltalin is not linked to the ksuba. The Omerle Rebel Rav Nachman, my time of the metaltalin, the reason why is because an Eved is like metaltalin. Metaltalin havishir. When it comes to metaltalin, it's a shear. It's considered to be left over. So since he says regarding this Eved that I may hold on to some metaltalin, so he doesn't go free because maybe this Eved is what he's referring to. So we see clearly an Eved is metaltalin. Uksuvas isha mikarkoihu. However, when it comes to the ksuba, it's linked to the land. Metaltalin mikarkoi lo havishir. So she wasn't moichel her ksuba. But this is proof that we see an Eved is like metaltalin. So that's seemingly a raya. As we continue to Kuf Nun Amud Beis. So Amalei to say no. Anan, the reason why we say this is Mishum Delav Kros Gita Mas Nisan Law. An Eved is not removed since the din is that he still has rights to him. And so that's the whole answer. But let's look in this Rashbam. So Eved Gamer Lolam Isha, who went out of Xer Shava to be in and get krisus. That just like a woman says because of Vanasala Kesever krisus, they have to give her a get which completely disconnects you from her, so you cannot have any connection whatsoever. But in the case by the Eved, in which he has to be completely, and for it to be an absolute emancipation, he can have any connection to him. But since the shtar says that he has a schus, shekasuba shishir karku metaltale atzmo, he's saying that he's holding on to something for himself. Lo hikna lo hashtar legamri, that shtar doesn't completely free him. Shigam schus ha'adin kasaboy, because in it is also the schus for him to go free. Hilkacho krinbe get krisus. So we don't follow the din of get krisus over here, because just like a woman has to be completely cut off, the Eved also has to be cut off. And this Eved is not being cut off. And that's the reason why he doesn't go free. Rabbi Sai Shibe Loiter V'gam yesh afarish kach v'oilam avdi imikar koidami. Maybe you can tell me that an Eved possibly is like land. V'gam get a maicha shvinan. Afil metaltal and sheer eitzel Eved. So why do we say that if in fact an Eved is like land? So why do we say that if you say I'm holding on to metaltalin, that the Eved doesn't go free, if in fact an Eved is like land? Hainu taima mishum dekrisus gomer bi'inan. We need a complete detachment. B'kivan shezeh shir metaltalin, since you're holding on to something, man le'mulan d'lo hay b'daito. Who says it's not in your mind? L'shar Eved. Even though maybe an Eved really is like land, we said that's what it is when it comes to Dinoraisa, but maybe for this one person, when he thinks about his Eved, he compares him to Metaltalin, and his Das was for that. After all, he didn't specify what we're talking about, that he was leaving over. So maybe in his mind, he really thought that the thing that he was leaving over with regard to Metaltalin was the Eved. Even though everywhere else an Eved really is like land, but in his head, he considered him like metaltalin. So for this person, you need to have the adain is completely disconnecting, and therefore, since he is not disconnecting, that's the reason why the Eved does not go free. Question 7. Also metaltalin shir eitzel Eved mishum delav koros gita. Madu shir metaltalin lav koros gitahu I avdik mekar koidami. So we just saw. Why would we say? There's two pirushim we just saw in the Rashbam. If in fact an Eved is like land, so then why do we say that he doesn't go free if you mention metaltalin? So kivan sheishul bal Eved schus ba'isa star, either because since the Baal has a schus in the same star of freeing the Eved, in hashtar kanu gamri Eved, so therefore the Eved can't go free with his star. Get krisus. You need to have a document which completely frees them. But this document, there is something in which the owner still has some ownership of him, some ownership. And the get is supposed the star shichar has to just completely free him. It cannot mention anything of not having given over something completely. Alternatively, afal pisha alma avik mekarkoi dami shema mikol makam haybadas bal Eved. The owner of the Eved thinks l'shayro b'chol metaltalin ve'enze krisos gomor. So that's how it is interpreted. Okay, fine. Let's look at question TA14. So TA14 says as follows: Oimer metaltli laplanya v'loyamer kol el devarim inu nechol metaltlin. So which things are not included in metaltlin? This is question TA14. So this is basically how we begin. TA14. So if you didn't say the lashon of kol, and this is pshita, right? If you say metaltli laplanya kol mane tashmishi koni levar chiti v'sa'iri. So it comes to exclude wheat and barley. However, that's really not enough, because the Rashbam, as we've read as well, says V'hu adin levar mibehemoisav. It's also coming to exclude your livestock as well. Okay, and that's probably what they want. That's the curveball. Chiti sari gemara behemois, according to the Rashbam. Okay, let's see if question TB 15. Also metaltalin shir eitzel Eved madua in raim is the avda kemetaltali. Why don't we learn out the din is that an Eved is like metaltalin? After it says Eved also metaltalin shir eitzel Eved. So I said Eved keisha shehu tzarich get shichur krisos agamri vashtar shel adain ein ze krisos the gam yesh pamim shu daim lakarka. I'm not sure exactly what that means. I'm going to cross that part out. All right, so that's TB15, which is similar to question 7. TB15 is really just the Pashup shot of the Gemara. Okay, let's keep going. So now the Gemara says as follows. Omar Rav Nachman Chamisha. There are 5 situations, in which is going to be question 8. Chamisha ad shichtavu. Let's read the Gemara first. There's 5 situations ad shichtavu kol nechseihem. You have to give everything away. V'elhein shchimira avdo ishto banav mavrachas. So we'll see what this is. But this is going to be question 8. Be'elu min hachamisha havi shir metaltlin kishir karko l'chol davar. Out of these 5, which one do we say that the leaving over metaltlin is the same thing as land regarding all matters? Okay, so we'll get to that soon. So let's see what these 5 things are. First of all, shchimira. We already saw this. Ditnan. Shchimira shekasav chonachas v'acherim. So a person who's dying and he writes all of his possessions to someone else. V'shir karkakoshu, but the person kept some things for himself. Let's just call it land. Or let's call it kolshehu, even the smallest amount. It was a machlokas. Matnasoi kayemes. So let's say he ended up living through this illness. So the din is that it's still a matana. Because why did you leave something for yourself? It must be because you thought to yourself, if I live, this will be sufficient for me to be able to live off of. And therefore, matnaso kayemes. Lo shir karka kolshu, if you left nothing for yourself, ein matnaso kayemes, then it's not a gift. It goes back to him if he actually lives. That's number 1. 2, avdai. When it comes to a slave, we also learned, you write everything to your eved, yatzim ben chayrin, he obviously goes free. However, shir karka kolshehu, if you left even the small amount, then lo yatzim ben chayrin. Then in that situation, he does not go free. So in both of these cases, question 8, the din is, this is a sheer metalton, it's kashir karka l'chol davar. It doesn't matter if it's metalton or karka, that if you left either land or metalton, the din is that it applies just the same. This is what Rashbam is going to say. Afil b'metalton k'nemasik b'seifo lavar b'ksuvas isha. All these things, we'll say karka and metalton have the same din, with the exception of ksuvas ishas, we'll see in a moment, which is over here. Number 3. Ishtoi. Let's say you wrote all your possessions to your wife. So the din is, the truth is, you didn't really give all of your things to your wife, and therefore now your children will get nothing. That a person wouldn't typically do. And therefore, what you probably ended up wanting to do, and this is a milsable taima, there's no actual source to this, but this is one of the 3 times that we still say this is the din, that a person's generally not going to do this. He's not going to give all of his things to his wife and leave nothing for his kids. So she's just an apitropis, she's safeguarding the items. 4. And that's only because he gave everything to her, that's the din. If he only gave some to her, so then maybe she wouldn't be an apitropis. Banav, number 4, did not. You wrote everything to your kids, because of the ishto karka koshehu, and you give to your wife a little bit of land, then of the ksubasa. In that situation, she loses her ksuba. And that is the distinction. Because a ksuba is linked to karka. It's linked to land. However, if let's say you wrote to your wife metalton koshehu, she would not lose her ksuba. Okay, that's question 8. Mavrachas. What's the case of mavrachas? The Emer Mar mavrachas sricha shichtu kol nechaseha. A mavrachas has to write all of the possessions. What is a mavrachas? So the Rashbam says isha almana. So you have a woman, sheish nechasim, she has all this money, but daitli nase, she wants to get remarried. V'roitzel havriach nechaseha mebala, but she wants to keep the money from her new husband. Shloyehi zacha b'nechaseha. She doesn't want him to be able to collect it. Right? We want, in the case of certain, that she's going to be able to hold on to this money. So we said that the only time this din applies in Mavrachas is, says Rashbam, Sricha shetichtay konechoseha la'acher, just to give everything away stam. Kivan deloy shire midi, since she left nothing, she's bringing nothing into the estate. Anan sahadi deloy nasna lazeh. The only reason why she gave all this guy, El Bishvil Shiretzli Nase, she wants to get married, because Shirtzi Yachser law. and then when she wants, she can get this money back. Avol, says Rashbam, im shira koshehu, if she kept any of it, then kana hamakabel matana, then that person will accept the rest as a gift. And she'll never get it back. So this is another din where it's like an all or nothing type of thing. Okay, so that's Kizim of Rachas. Uvakulhu metaltali havishir. When it comes to all of them, metaltal is just like karkel. Var miksuba, as we said, devikarkoi tektinu rabbanan, metaltal tikun rabbanan. So that is the exception, which is the real answer to question number 8. It's just clean that Gemara we just saw as the answer number 8, is that when it comes to a woman, we say that if you gave all your possessions to your children, but you wrote to your wife metaltalin, she's not going to lose her ksuba in that case. When it comes to metaltalin, it's written in the ksuva, and it's still here, havi shir, then that taka would also be a shir if it was actually included in the ksuba. Says Rashbam, because a woman can collect the ksuba from the metaltalin, as it says in this ksuvas, metaltalin isnu b'inayu, if it's here below shvua, she can collect even without a shvua. Ve'ikol memer de'azdala memer taimei, according to his reason, the hahacha memer nami karmela. Okay, so Omer nechasa leplanya. Let's say a person says that these possessions will go to such a person. So avda ikri nechase. So we say that in that statement could potentially even include of the possessions, that it could include an eved, could be part of that category as well. And the Gemara says this is referring to a shchemira, or alternatively it could be a healthy person that he actually does a kinyan sudar. So when he says nechasa leplanya, that could include an eved. How do we say an eved is called nechasai? Ditnan hakaisav called nechasa le'avdo yatz ben chayrit. Because if you write all the possessions to your eved, he goes free. Because obviously that includes the eved himself. Because an eved is considered to be nechasai. Ara ikri nechasai. Land is also considered to be possessions. Ditnan nechasim sheishem achrayas nid because of shtar b'chazaka. Now when it comes to a kinyan agav, you can acquire the metaltalin together with a karka. So it says it's called nechasim. So therefore land is called possessions. Glima, when it comes to a garment, ikri nichse, it's also for the same reason. Ditnan she'en lehem achrayas metaltalin eniknin elba meshicha. It says the same thing. You can actually probably just learn it from the same thing. It says nechasim sheisham achrayas niknin. Okay, so you can learn out through kinyan agav, the same language. Zuza ikri nichse. Money is also considered possessions. Ditnan she'en lehem achrayas, something which is not, there is no lien on, niknin in nechasim sheisham achrayas b'chesed zachas. That there's your kinyan agav. Okay. Ki had Rav Papa havile triaser alfi zuz. He had 12,000 zuz. Bechozoi agninhu nihile le Rav Shmuel baracha agav asifa de beise. So he did a kinyan agav through the threshold of his house through this land. Ki also when he came nafak lape ad tavach. He was so happy that he accompanied him so far. Says the Rashbam. Agav asifa de beise. Shehiknel besuder karkan knisas beso. Va'agboy hikna lo hamois betaris harsha kamafreshes b'babakama inami hoch the hiksik karka the hikna lo hamois komachim shehein alma mois mikri nichse. Okay, regardless, we see that money is considered nechasim, its possessions. Shtar ikri nichse also included in that statement of possessions would be documents. The Yomer Rabba bar Yitzchak shnei shtaris hein. There's two different types of dinim regarding land, documents rather. Omar, a person says, Zachu b'sadeh Lapoini, I want this person to acquire this field. The kisvu as a star, and you write a star for that person. You can change your mind about the star, but the field you have to give to him. You can't change, since he already acquired it with a kinyan or a chazaka, and a person can be zaka shel b'fanav. So therefore, you don't have to write a star, but you still have to. You can't be retract on the land. Al menashe tiknu as a star. If let's say it's on condition to link the two, so since you didn't write a star, so you don't have to be on the field either. Rav Chia bar Rav and Rav Huna shloisha star, saying there's 3 laws of documents. Trei hani da amran, 2 which we said. Idach, this Gemara is mentioned in so many places. Im kadam meicha v'kasav as a star ba'isa ka'isa shishninu. If a person would get up, the seller would go and write a star like that which we have learned. Kaisvin, as we continue to Kuf Nun Aleph, Alman Aleph, Kaisvin star l'moicher. Then you can write a star to the moicher. V'alfa b'yishein loikech imo, even though the buyer is not with you. Kivan shehichsek said, Bekarka nikna star kol makam shehu. Once you acquire the land, you can acquire the star no matter where it is. Zuhi shishninu nechasim shein lehem achrayas niknu mechasim sheisam achrayas nechasim star chazaka. Then you know that when a person does a kenan agav, you don't need siburin. That the land that you acquire the metaltal and agav, and it doesn't even have to be there. Behemaker nichse. Also, when you say possessions and animals included, non hamakdish nechasav, a person's makdish of his possessions, the hois mehen behema, there's an animal royal gam mizbech, if it's fit for mizbech, if it's zacharim oilis, because we know a carbon oil has to be male. Nekevis, if it's female, because it's in the keva, it's shaykh to be more than one type of a carbon. So yimchur, you sell it with sarchi zivchi shlomim for the sake of a shlomim. Oifais ikri nechse, also birds. Non hamakdish nechasav ahoy behem devarim haruyin legam mizbech. For example, yenos shmonim oifais, wine, oil, and birds. So we see that these things, including ophos, are considered possessions. Tefillin ikri nechse. Tefillin is also considered to be possession. Non hamakdish nechasav, a person is makdish all his possessions. We evaluate malin lo tefillin. We evaluate his tefillin, because he still needs tefillin, so we have to figure out how much it's worth. Iboilu, Sefer Torah mai. Is a Sefer Torah considered to be nichse, just like tefillin? Or possibly, says the Rashbam, Dilma tefillin hainu taima dahavi malbush. Tefillin is like a garment of a Sefer Torah, Sefer mitzvahi, velo nichse. It's not considered to be like a possession. Even though you could sometimes sell it, that doesn't matter. So again, Kivan Delim is not really supposed to sell a Sefer Torah, Yaslam Lizvune Nichsehu, so it's not really a possession. There's actually certain times you could sell a Sefer Torah for learning Torah, for getting married, so therefore maybe it's Nichse, and that we do not know the answer. Okay, question 9. Al eze davar iboy begamar ibachlal b'shem nechasim mehem study iboya. Again, with regard to a Sefer Torah, the suffix is imach mash asul ma'achro. Since you can't sell it, it's not considered nechasim. Or maybe since you could sell under certain circumstances, again like learning Torah, or to marry someone, so it's allowed. So then maybe in that situation it is considered to be a possession. On that we have a teiku. TA no nothing. Question TB 16. Adkan.